I was 25 years old when my grandmother passed away. The only person in my family who had ever truly loved me unconditionally and believed in me when no one else did. She left me a small house in her will, a modest but beautiful cottage by the lake that had been in our family for 3 generations, and it was supposed to be my fresh start, my chance to finally build something of my own after years of struggling and working multiple jobs just to survive. I had spent my entire childhood being overlooked by my parents, who had always favored my older brother, Mark, because he was the golden child who could do no wrong, and my grandmother was the only one who saw through his charming facade and recognized that he was selfish, manipulative, and completely incapable of caring about anyone but himself. When the will was read, my grandmother left me the lake house and left Mark a substantial amount of money, a fair and balanced distribution that should have satisfied both of us. But Mark wasn't satisfied because he had always believed that he deserved everything, that I was worthless, and that nothing I had should ever be mine without his permission. A month after my grandmother's funeral, I went to the lake house to start cleaning it out and planning my move. But when I arrived, I found a for sale sign in the yard and a lock on the door that I didn't recognize. I called my brother's phone, and he answered with a smug laugh, saying, "Oh, you didn't know? I sold the house. I needed the money for a business investment, and you didn't really deserve it anyway. Grandmother was just being sentimental. You can find another place to live. This one is gone." I stood there in front of the house that was supposed to be mine, the only inheritance I had ever received from anyone, and I felt my entire world collapse around me, because my brother had stolen everything from me and he didn't even care. I didn't fight my brother over the house because I knew it would be pointless. He had already sold it, already pocketed the money, and already spent it on whatever failed business venture he was chasing at the time. Instead, I walked away from that house and from my entire family because I realized that they would never protect me, never stand up for me, and never hold Mark accountable for the terrible things he did to me over and over again. I moved to a new city, changed my phone number, and started over from scratch with absolutely nothing but my determination to succeed without any of them. I worked 2 jobs for the next 5 years, saved every penny I could, and eventually built a modest but comfortable life for myself. A small apartment, a reliable car, and a savings account that gave me the security I had never had when I was constantly fighting with my family for scraps of love and respect. I didn't think about Mark very often because thinking about him only made me angry, and I didn't want to give him any more space in my head or my heart than he had already taken from me. I dated, I made friends, I built a life that had nothing to do with my family, and I was finally starting to feel happy, truly happy for the first time in my entire life. But then, 5 years after my brother had stolen my inheritance and disappeared from my life, I got a call from an unknown number that would change everything and force me to confront the past that I had tried so hard to leave behind forever. I answered the phone, and it was Mark's wife, crying and begging me to come to the hospital because Mark was dying and he needed a kidney transplant, and I was the only match in the entire family because of our biological compatibility. I sat in my apartment staring at the wall, feeling the anger and the betrayal flood back into my chest like they had never left. And I listened as Mark's wife told me that he had been sick for months, that his kidneys were failing, and that he would die within weeks if he didn't get a transplant. She was crying and begging and pleading, telling me that Mark was sorry for everything he had done, that he had changed, that he had found God, that he had realized how wrong he had been to treat me like he did, and that he needed me now more than he had ever needed anyone. I listened to her cry for a few minutes, and then I said, "I'll come to the hospital. I want to see him." I drove to the hospital the next morning, walked into Mark's hospital room, and found him lying in a hospital bed with tubes attached to his arms and a pale, weak expression on his face that I had never seen before. He looked at me with desperate eyes, tears streaming down his face, and he said, "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything I did to you. I sold your house. I stole your inheritance. I treated you like garbage for years. But I'm dying now, and you're my only hope. Please, please give me your kidney. Please save my life." I didn't say anything. I just reached into my purse, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and handed it to him. Mark unfolded the paper and stared at it in confusion. It was a bill, a copy of the sale documents from the lake house that he had sold 5 years ago. with the amount he had stolen from me clearly written at the bottom. I looked him straight in the eyes and said, "This is the house you stole from me. Mark, this is the money you took, exactly $287,000, the amount you received from the sale. I will give you my kidney, but first you're going to pay me back every single penny that you stole from me, every single penny." Mark's face went red with anger, and he screamed, "You can't do this! I'm dying! You can't hold me hostage like this." I smiled calmly and said, "I'm not holding you hostage, Mark. I'm giving you a choice. You can pay me back the money you stole, and I'll give you my kidney. Or you can keep your money, and I'll walk out that door and let you figure out another way to survive. The choice is yours." Mark started crying, begging, pleading, promising to pay me back over time. But I shook my head and said, "No, Mark, I want it all, right now. You have 3 days to sell whatever you need to sell, borrow whatever you need to borrow, and transfer the full amount into my bank account. If you don't, I'm leaving, and you'll never see me again." I walked out of that hospital room while Mark screamed my name, and for 3 days, I didn't answer any of his calls or texts because I wanted him to sit with the fear, the desperation, and the complete loss of control that I had felt 5 years ago, when he stole my inheritance and didn't even care. On the 3rd day, Mark transferred the full $287,000 into my bank account. He had borrowed money from his in-laws, sold his car, and liquidated everything he had, because he knew that I was his only hope and he had no other options left. I scheduled the surgery, gave him my kidney, and saved his life, but I didn't visit him in the hospital afterward because I had done what I needed to do, and I had no interest in pretending that we were suddenly a happy, loving family after everything he had done to me. My parents tried to guilt-trip me, telling me that I was cruel and heartless for forcing Mark to pay me back. But I simply said, "He stole from me. He sold my inheritance. He left me with nothing. I gave him back his life, but I didn't give him my forgiveness because he hasn't earned it." Today, Mark and I have a distant, polite relationship at best. We see each other at family gatherings. We exchange pleasantries, but we will never be close, because some wounds are too deep and some betrayals are too fundamental to ever fully heal. I used the money he paid me back to buy a small house by the lake. Not the same one, but a similar one, and I decorated it exactly how my grandmother would have wanted, with family photos and cozy furniture, and a garden in the backyard where I grow my grandmother's favorite flowers. Mark's health has improved, but he'll always be on medication for the rest of his life. And he'll always know that the only reason he's still alive is that I chose to give him a second chance. But I'll never let him forget that it came at a price. I learned that day that forgiveness doesn't mean letting people walk all over you, and that you can choose to help someone without letting them back into your heart, because some people are too dangerous to trust again, no matter how much they apologize or how much they've changed. The best revenge against someone who stole from you isn't to destroy them. It's to make them pay back every single thing they took and then give them the gift of life so they have to live with that guilt forever. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. You can choose to help someone without letting them back into your heart, because some people are too dangerous to trust again, no matter how much they apologize. The best revenge against someone who stole from you is to make them pay back every single thing they took, and then live with the guilt forever.